To the Sports Marketing Machine podcast, the podcast for those working in sports looking to level up their marketing skill set so they can sell more tickets, sell more merchandise, and grow your fan base. Today, we're talking all about improving your merchandise sales, and I've brought on Heather from Destroyer Promotional Products. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yes, second time's the charm.
Yeah, so you are my first second time guest. Wonderful, fantastic, excited to have you today. But we're going to talk about 10 quick tips that teams can implement and do to improve their merchandise sales. So let's start off with the first one, inventory related. So go ahead and take it away.
Inventory obviously is going to be your number one. You're going to want to make sure that you know your inventory, and it's not just simply knowing how much you have on hand, but it's knowing how much of each style that you have. For an example, if you have 5 logo shirts and they're black, white, orange, purple, how many do you have in black? How many do you have in white? How many do you have in purple? The size breakdowns of those, because those could be your miss holes. You could be completely sold out of large blacks and have every other size available, but clearly you have more demand for your large blacks. And every single time somebody goes to pick one up and they can't find one, it's a lost sale. 70% of your customers are, 1, not going to ask for help when finding a size. 2, they're not going to order it online and come back and get it. Especially in our business, we're not as large as, like Gap and Old Navy and those things. So if they're not able to buy it right then and there, majority of the time, it's a lost sale for you.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what you have, making sure that you're doing replen orders, you can do inventory spot checks. You don't have to do a full one. I know those take a lot of time, but just take 10 to 15 different styles of things that you have on the floor and spot check, make sure and count those and that they match what's in your system. Again, anytime you have to refund somebody for an online sale because you don't have it in store, absolute bummer.
Mm-hmm.
Another key thing that you want to do is partner with a company, like us, shameless plug, that can get you your replen orders in as little as 7 to 10 business days. If you have to order 6 or plus months out in advance, probably not going to be the best thing to go with, because you're going to sell out of it, which is great, but all the different miss sales opportunities is not so great. You could have a really cool shirt and 10 to 15 people want it, or you could have a really cool shirt and 400 people want it and you only ordered 95. You're kind of SOL. I absolutely had a team that did this last time. It was one of their last season was one of their it was their alt brand, and they sold out of every single style shirt that game night.
Wow.
So they had to do an emergency reorder. They started taking pre-orders because they knew that we could get them their materials in 7 to 10 days. So the next weekend, when that game came around, people could come and pick up their shirt, or it was already mailed out to them. That's going to be your saving grace right there. But again, they ordered limited quantities of things. I think it was 95 of each style or less. And I mean, again, one game sold out. So always take chances on things, but make sure you know. If you're having broken inventory and you don't want to re-up it because it's just gotten kind of stagnant, know that, move it to clearance and move it to sell. Understand that clearancing out and putting something on sale isn't driving people into the store. Just don't make the mistakes that Gap honestly made. I've worked in, well, not to throw them under the bus in any way, because loved working there for the company. But the customers were trained to expect a sale. They would come in and they'd be like, oh, this is full price, and be like, yeah, they'd put it back on the rack. I'll come back in 2 weeks when it's on sale. They weren't wrong. Majority of the time it happened. So don't train your customers to expect a sale. Train them to understand that these are limited quantities being made. This is an exclusive product. Get it now, because we probably aren't going to get it back in stock. And if you don't buy now, your size might not be here in 2 weeks. So just doing things like that. And then when you understand your inventory and the amount of styles that you have inside of your SKUs, it's easier just to keep line of sight of what your customers are buying. Are more extra larges and larges selling in mediums and things. You're looking at your kids, your women's and your men's. And so when it comes to doing ordering the next time around, you can make sure that you order 35 large instead of 15 large because you sold through so many so fast. You're taking that pressure off of you and your team, and it helps. You're able to densify your floor better and, you make more money,
Mm-hmm.
which is the good thing.
You used the word line of sight before we get to tip number 2 here. What does line of sight mean in the merchandise retail space world?
Just having, you want to keep a line of sight on what you have. So an easier line of sight, if you have too much stuff and you can't figure out what it is that you're looking at, it's not perfectly lined up. I always I compare it to when my dad used to take me to the firing range,
Mm-hmm.
and my line of sight was my clear targets. So think of your clear targets, what you're shooting at, what you're focusing on, and what you're trying to hit is your
Mm-hmm.
clear line of sight. So
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Uh,
redneck, I know.
uh, all good. All good. So, tip number 2: your retail space, regardless if you've got a spot that's really small or you have an enormous building, you have to understand your retail space, right?
Yes. I mean, you can have a hallway, you could have it set up NASCAR style or concert style, but just understand what you're working with and how people shop. When you go Next time you go shopping, any of the retail managers or buyers out there, think about what you do and how you shop. Take note about how you shop. I want to touch this. I want to see this. It doesn't matter if I touch that. Just looking at the design works for me. You want to put things forward that customers want to touch and feel so that they can buy them more. Shirts, 100% of the time, people want to touch and feel them. It's
Mm-hmm.
just the thing. They want to know how soft it is, if it's a scratchy cotton. Is it going to shrink when I wash it? Just those tactile things and interactions with the product can increase your customers' sales exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
I was working with a team that was doing it concert style. They set up just tables and just had the grading behind them and had the shirts, and they had boxes of shirts that they would just hand people. The best year they did again was 130. I took a hallway and I set up some rolling Z bars and things like that and allowed customers kind of shop it and give it a little bit more ease there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we jumped up to over 400. So the absolute most important thing is for the customer to be able to touch and hold it. If they pick it up and they're carrying it, 90% of the time they're buying it.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can't get to it, if the line's too long, they give up. People don't want to wait these days.
Under the merchandise, the visual retail space here, like like visual merchandising, how are you displaying things? Are you having things that are a little bit more, and this is tip 3, a little bit more expensive in certain spots versus cheaper in others? How do you kind of merchandise things from a visual appeals perspective?
This is something that I have spent when I was working for a larger company, and I was kind of explaining to you earlier. It was a 6-month long training process. So there's so much that goes into it. Nobody should feel bad if they're not an expert in visual merchandising. Trust me, I'm not a creative soul in any
Mhm.
way, and I loved those VMM guides that we would get. They were so helpful. They helped with all the inspiration. I can't begin to tell you there. But displaying your top revenue drivers up front along with some lower items can help offset those costs. Creating maybe a player's corner for your more expensive items. Typically, the more expensive items you have are going to be what the players are wearing. It's going to be that name brand. It's going to be the top of the line and stuff
Mhm.
like that. When it comes to your logo shirts and things, you have a little bit more leeway there. So you can roll them, you can fold them. You don't necessarily have to have those hanging. You can just have a simple display that shows the logo shirts, and then you can keep. I mean, if you're doing the NASCAR concert style setup, you can keep those in the boxes, but you can easily display kind of just the different color options next to each other with a photo over it or something. Just maximizing the space that you have is going to be super helpful. Making sure that you're showing off the new shirts, the more
Mhm.
expensive shirts, and letting people see those really cool, fun ideas is going to be what's going to help drive that for you.
So the visual merchandising can be in a few different ways. Signage that says, "Hey, wear what the players wear. This is new shirts. These are kids section." Like having dedicated signage that actually explains what they are, that really helps drive more sales.
Signage is absolute key. Making sure you can communicate what you're trying to do or what the product is to the customer without having to, again, They don't want to talk to anybody majority of the time. They want to come in, they want to grab it, and they want to go. Shopping has just changed landscape wise to that. Customer service in that regard is a dying art.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're dealing with, especially at a sporting event, you're having anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 people in a 2-hour period. That every single day for a retail manager at a sporting event is Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're all hands on deck. You're running around. Some people, their storage stock rooms, if they are lucky enough to even have one, are 2 or 3 floors above or 2 or 3 floors down. You're doing stairs. You're taking elevators. You're using baker's racks. You become the ninja of retail just to try to make it through a 3-hour period.
Yep.
So it's vitally important just to make sure that your signage is clear. You have things merchandised visually easily for the customer to see what they're looking for. And we'll get into one of the tips is your back of house or your storage space, which comes down to helping the ninja running the floors, I should say. We'll get to that. Yeah.
So also under the bucket of visual merchandising, having like 20 items for $20 or less near checkout, that fall in this bucket too?
I would mostly say that that's more of a driver that you would try to do. So when you're looking at your KPIs, these are your I'm like brain farting right now.
Key performance indicators. Yep.
Known performance indicators. Sorry, key performance, known performance indicators. But that is going to be where you're adding to the bag, where you're driving your average transaction. You're building the bag that way.
Got it.
So you could have your normal sale be $25, but if you have these little add-ons around your checkout area, someone would be like, ooh, that's nice. Ooh, somebody would like this. Ooh, that's only $5, or this is $4. But you take that $25 transaction and you've bumped it up to $50. So they may not be things that you're going to be making a retirement on, but they're typically high margin, low cost items, and you build your bag. And if you can take 1,000 transactions that were going to be $25 and only, have a $2,500 night and increase those to $50 and then have a $5,000 night, that's a substantial win in anybody's book.
So tip 4 here is driving the KPIs through building the bag. So I know we're kind of going out of the order that we had listed out here just to get ourselves prepared, but building the bag through driving some KPIs. Anything else you want to add on tip number 4 here?
You want to set those goals. Look at your year-over-year goals. Make sure you're tracking it every single game. While they might have a different theme, you can go game 1 through game 28 or 56, depending on your baseball, those 4 souls. And you just compare it that way. Obviously, your theme nights and things might skew the amount of sales that you have, but you can look at, last year we had an average transaction rate of $45. We're going to goal ourselves for larger. Then you have a team meeting. Hey guys, we're really trying to build the bag tonight. We've got a brand new shirt that we want to push, or we've got these new novelty items in that we really want to use to build the bag. You can do team meetings around that. And that's where you can look at your average transaction, which is your AT. You're looking at your UPT, which is going to be your units per transaction. You can look at your SOT, which is going to be your sales over traffic. You'll look at your conversion, which is your transactions over traffic. And you can look at your and how you calculate your traffic. For me and what I've done, because when you're at a sporting event, it's so hard to do. Look at the turnstile actual scan tickets, and that's your traffic for the evening. While, yes, they may have sold 5,000, only 3,400 people scanned in. So use that number because those are the real actual footsteps. Not many people, if you're in an arena and you've got booths set up everywhere, there's no way you can set who's coming in, who's coming out. You can't set those trackers. Just use the entire arena in general. Yep. Yeah, they're there to watch your team. That is a captivated audience. You can count them all.
That average order transaction or average order value, however we want to describe it, that's so important because a lot of teams are looking at per cap. Well, how much money did I make off of each person that came to the game today? In your mind and the merchandise, that's only a part of the per cap's got everything in food and tickets and what have you. Your average order transaction or average order value says, For everyone that came in here, every order was $42. How do I get it closer to 50? Because you've got goals to hit, just like the group sales guys, just like the ticket sales guys. Everybody's got goals to hit. So, which leads us to our next point, point number 5, competitive pricing. So if you're a sports team and you've got other teams in your market, or you're selling similar things as other teams all across America, how do you set your prices to be competitive where you're making money while you're also not like gouging the client?
I mean, it's just simple market research, just taking the time to go through it. Everybody has really unique, fun ideas. It's great to run with those ideas. Talk to your producers like us, reach out to us. We can get you quotes and pricing on it. Um, then take that and calculate. I mean, I like to stay around a 67% margin when I'm doing retail, to be honest, and figure out what it is that you need to sell that for. Is it realistic? Is there something similar like that that's happening? A great example is you can look at jerseys, right? Uh, you can take a football jersey. Everybody knows the NFL. You're looking at those things and they can be $195. We're not probably going to be getting that at some of our more independent style leagues or semi-professional leagues. So then just go down a league. What's the next league selling theirs for? And just look at the overall competitive genre. And then you've got to take your cost and you got to price compare it. And that's when you start bidding against different competitors within your own market. So if a competitor A is quoting you $56 for these jerseys, these replica style jerseys, and competitor B is saying it's going to be 62 and competitor C comes in at 48, that's when and you're looking at what are they made out of? Are they
Mm-hmm.
made out of the same materials? Are they the same weight and things? Because yes, somebody could come in and say, well, I can do this for you for $38. And you're like, wow, 38 versus 56.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get it and it's like the practice jersey that you used to wear in elementary school gym class versus what they're actually wearing, on the field. There's some difference.
Huge difference. Yep.
While you're thinking you can charge $125 for this, the reality is you're probably only going to maybe get 60, 70 out of it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not the quality that you're looking for in order to get that maximized benefit. So it goes into spending some time and doing just that market research. And that's why your retail people are so important. And it's critical to have these conversations with the people and the producers that you're working with.
That's a great segue into tip number 6, buying. You do the market research to figure out the price points of the things that you want to sell, but then you've got quotes from 6 different vendors. Some are within a couple dollars, like you had mentioned, and some are like $20 off. At that point, do you ask for samples? Like, what do you do to make sure you don't get stuck with a dud?
Absolutely. You can ask for samples. Not everybody has samples on hand. Some people direct ship to customers. I mean, I know that what we do is we try to pull some products for all of the customers that we're working with. We get maybe 1 or 2 extra made. There's always a PPS that we do that we send to our customers to approve before we even go into mass production. And so we get those things after everything's been shipped to them. We get a shipment a couple of times a year with these items, and we try to keep them all in hand. But when we're at our trade shows, that is the time your buyers need to be at any and every trade show that there is so that they can get their hands on these things and touch and feel them. That's going to be the best way for them to touch and see and feel all the different items and materials, because it's so hard. I could send you a box of 35 different items, and another vendor is going to send you a box of 35 different items. Then you got to keep track of where they all are. You're sitting there and it almost gets too complicated
Mm-hmm.
when you're going through those different steps. So having a real specific idea of what you're looking for and it narrowed down to 2 different people and going that direction, then it's easier for us to be like, I can absolutely get you a plush blanket and a couple of these hats to look and see and try on and feel. And then they can make easier decisions that way.
Yeah, that makes life so much easier. You're touching and feeling, you're having conversations, and then you, destroyer, are probably writing down. Jeremy was asking about this. Send him a quote about X, Y, and Z. But
Mhm.
I know now what it is, and I've touched and feel it. And maybe as the team, I work for a team. I write down, hey, I talked to Heather about this. This is great. So people who work in sports oftentimes go to other sporting events. Does it make sense for us to kind of write down other items that we see that may be like, hey, maybe this is something cool that I could sell, or take pictures of it and send it to vendors? What is that? Is that good practice?
Absolutely, I do it all the time. Everybody has their phone on you. Just open up your little notes section, or if you have a group chat, I blow up my coworkers all the time. I'm like, ooh, look at this, or ooh, look at that. I take photos. I send them things. I'll be sitting and watching sports events on TV, the NFL draft, for example. Me and all my coworkers were sitting and watching the draft, and we'd all take different photos of different things and send it to people and be like, that's cool, or let's look at that. That's a fantastic idea. How can we make that our own? Just different ways. We're constantly looking at things that we can do to improve our products. But again, we're a small, local, US owned company. And so there's only 4 of us, and we can only watch so many events. We love it when customers ask us, can you do this? This would be super great. Sure, let's look into it. We can absolutely try to
Mhm.
figure out a way for us to go about getting that put together for you.
And I think when you do that and you've got an actual partner that you are able to bounce ideas off of, rather than this transactional relationship, it's definitely a lot more of a relationship, and you're helping, and you want to see teams succeed in the wins, and what have you. But I think the other part of this is that organizations like you are working with so many other teams. So if a team calls you up and says, hey, what's selling really well on merchandise, you can spit off 32 different things, because you know exactly what's selling really well in some markets versus other markets, and attendance and all these different things. Because this is what you do for a living, right?
Yeah, and you'd be really surprised. I mean, we have a team down in Florida that's kicking some booty right now in hockey. Congratulations to them for their win last night. They ordered some plush blankets, for example, and you would never think that a plush blanket, because ours are huge, 50 by 72. I mean, they fit you if you're 6 feet, super thick and soft and all that jazz. You wouldn't think plush blanket Florida top seller. Uh, Absolutely. They sold through them so quick. We had to do a rush order to help them refill them and to get through the season and everything this last year. So even though you might anticipate it not being a good seller, if it's that nice quality and if people like it, they're going to buy it. They make great gifts. So it's really hard to turn down just a top seller because you think it may not work well in your market.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes it's worth just giving it a try.
Yeah.
Tip number 7, back of the house. How do you keep things organized in the back of the house on crazy days?
This is probably one of the most critical things, aside from knowing your inventory, is maintaining and organizing your inventory. This is where your clear line of sight and knowing where you can get in and out of comes into play. I learned through my many years of retail and working was you always have your top sellers towards the front of the back of house stockroom door, so it's easier for you and your team to go in and to grab those. You want to make sure that you have properly invested into the organization and maintenance and
Hmm.
I should say storage of your merchandise.
So you mean like making sure you got racks and making sure things are organized. Otherwise, just don't throw boxes against the wall and hope for the best.
Yeah, you're going to want baker's racks. You're going to want utility carts, especially if it's in a closet or an attic or anything in those. There's little furry friends and creepy crawlies.
Hmm.
Cardboard is your worst enemy when it comes to storage. Tons of little critters and creatures like to make their nests and things out of those. And that can quickly ruin an entire box of merchandise for you before you know it, and then you're having to replace it and nobody is excited about that. So just ensuring that you're investing in your back of house storage, if that's something that you have to do, 100% all the way. Just make sure that you're protecting your investment is the best way that I could put that.
So do you recommend, like, Amazon's probably got some good carts and some carrier things and some industrial things. Uline's probably another good spot to buy some of those things. Are those the two places where someone's kind of getting going, you send them?
Yeah, I've bought a lot off of there before, and I know in some of my other companies, honestly, we bought a lot off of those as well. Another sad, unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of box stores and other brick and mortar locations that are going out of business these days. You know, you see it all the time. You can look and try to see who's going out of business in your area. Sometimes they post on Craigslist and
Hmm.
things. Going and taking advantage of those locations going out of business and closing. I shouldn't say taking advantage of, but
Yeah, they're selling some of these display racks and what have you at a discount.
yeah, just go for it. Another great thing you can do is if you are working with name brand companies, a lot of them, just for example, like CCM, Nike, Warrior, a lot of those companies actually want things displayed in a specific way. You can reach out to them. Sometimes they will send you actual displays that you can use in your store at no charge to you, which is always fantastic. So it's just looking at those options, reaching out to them. It never hurts to ask. The worst they can say is no, right? And then
Yep,
you're back to where you already were. So
correct.
just ask and then just look around. The more affordable you can do things, obviously, the better. I'm there all the way. You can get super fancy with baker's racks that completely fold down and just stand into a straight up and like upside down T, and then you can fold them out and they lay flat. I've had those before at different places that I've worked in. While yes, they are amazing because they completely fit together perfectly, I want to say they were a good $1,500 a piece. Not necessarily everybody's out there making that investment,
Hmm.
but you can get baker's racks for $120 to $200. Z racks, the Z bars, you want to make sure that it is a good quality one.
Hmm.
You want to do $100 or more on those bad boys. You can find them for $50 to $60, but they're not going to hold the weight. And that's what's important. You would be surprised how much clothes weighs
Hmm.
when you have it all put together. And I think that's something that everybody underestimates is how heavy it is to move stock from one location to another. So making sure you've got wheels on everything that you get, absolutely critical.
Hmm.
I've even bought bookshelves and put wheels on the bottom of those. So you
That's a
can
good
use
idea.
yeah, the cube display style things, those are fantastic. Just go ahead and screw some wheels in on that bad boy, flip her over, and you've got yourself a moving cube display where you can put all your smalls of this color in here, your mediums, your larges, and go down. Super easy, super quick. You wheel her in, wheel her out. So, yeah.
Man, you get really creative when how you're organizing things back of the house to make it easier for you because on the day of the game, things are crazy. Like you said earlier, it's like Black Friday. You're just running around like a maniac. So
Yeah.
got to make it easy on yourself. All right, tip number 8, sales tracking. We talked about known performance indicators, KPIs, and what have you, and we talked a little bit about some of this. You want to hit anything else on this one here?
I would just say make sure you're creating a spreadsheet and make sure you're just tracking them again year over year. You can use that for your sales forecasting when you're doing your budgets and things next year. It's really important to understand that. You can use it to help you understand payroll hours. You can look at it and see, hey, we've got games in November, December, January, February, March. Our attendance is usually busier in December. It's a little bit slower in November around this time. So instead of having 6 people on the sales floor, maybe I only need 4 people. Then you can also use that to track. You can look at when somebody is doing stock work and you have new product coming in, you can track how fast they're processing those units and things. I'm getting 1,500 new units in. It takes my team of 3 people. This person can unfold and register in 100 shirts at a time. So I have 3 people, it's 1,500. So I need to do at least 2.5 hours of stock room allocated for payroll. You can do all of these things. And that's how major businesses go about doing it. It'll save you from overpaying. And then honestly, nobody wants to waste money on payroll. And the last thing is you want to do as a manager or a business owner is walk by one of your stores or locations and you see somebody sitting there on their phone.
Hmm.
if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. I mean,
Yep.
are all your sizes on the floor? Is everything folded and displayed correctly? There's not a single down moment or time when it comes to a game. And I think that's critical to understand. So it's looking at where your payroll is going and how it's being spent and who's doing what when they're supposed to be doing it. Obviously, that breaks down to the manager on the floor, making sure their team's doing the right thing. But it goes to hiring in that regard. So,
Yep. Next tip, let's capture some customer information. That's huge. As a marketing guy, that is absolutely important, imperative. We got to collect as much information as possible. But you're saying, hey, let's do this inside of the store as well.
oh, absolutely. If you're not gathering customer information inside of your store when somebody's checking out, you're honestly you're hurting yourself, but you're also hurting your ticket team
Hmm.
because you can share that information with your ticketing staff. It's hard for them to track. They know who the season ticket holders are. They know who the people are coming back time after time and time again. What's hard for them is the single ticket holders.
Hmm.
The people that, oh, I was just in town, the walk-ups and all the stuff like that. If that's the information, how many times have you heard somebody tell you, oh, I loved coming to these games. I haven't been in 10 years.
Hmm.
Dang, I see. You mean you're telling me I've had 9 years where I've missed out offering you sweet deals to get you back and through my door? It's
Hmm.
because we didn't know how to contact you.
Yep.
In a great way that you can do that, you can look into your POS system and see if they do have anything to offer you as far as a rewards program goes. I know Shopify does that. You can track and create that. Lightspeed is in the process of developing a loyalty and rewards program. I I actually want to say it's launched now. Not 100% familiar with it. I was only starting to play around with that one. That you can take and you can have somebody just have QR codes, back to that signage again.
Hmm.
Want to save 10% on your purchase today for first time people that sign up? Go ahead, scan this QR code. They put their information in, they put their email in, their phone number in, and then they're going to get 10% off their first purchase. And
Hmm.
then they'll start getting points for every dollar they spend. They'll get 1 point. After 500 points, they get a $5 reward or
Hmm.
something in that regard. Season ticket holders, it's so frustrating for them and it can take up time and slow down the line when they have to prove that they're a season ticket holder. They got to dig out a wallet or bring up their phone and bring up a card or something. Partner with your ticketing department, have their information already in your system. And so when
Hmm.
you are you a season ticket holder with us today, you're asking them if they're a season ticket holder. Oh, that's great. You're going to save 10% on your purchase anytime because you have season tickets with us.
Hmm.
People overhear that in line. They get excited about that. They ask about it. But you bring up Joe Bob's name, bring up all of his stuff, 10% is automatically applied to every single thing, and he's out.
Yep.
Not having to go and manually adjust anything. Your season ticket holder feels special and rewarded. Their name's in the system. Everybody asks about it. And then, the next person in line is, can I get your information so I can send you a 10% off your next purchase? Oh, you already signed up? Let's go ahead and make sure your 10% applies. It's
Hmm.
just an easy way to get more information that you can then pass along to your ticketing team that they can send blasts out for.
Hmm.
It's a great way for you to be able to incentivize people for new merchandise. Hey, when you do your email blast, brand new alt logo jerseys are in, or brand new shirts are in, or great holiday gift giving for this, the fan in your family type of thing.
Hmm.
So I'm, you catch more fish when you cast more lines into the
Yep.
pond. So start casting.
There you go. Collecting information inside of the four walls of the ballpark or arena are so important. Absolutely, from a ticket sales side. But if you've got your merchandise team also helping to this, it's like everyone's pulling on the same line here. Everybody's helping because oftentimes, and I see this, is that teams forget to promote the merchandise side of things. They forget to export the names from Shopify into their constant contact, or they don't even have them linked. So I see this all the time, and merchandise is such a great way to get people in to buy. Oh, that's a cool looking hat. Well, I've never been to a game. You can see that, or I'm a mini plan holder. This is a great for us to get you to spend more money is through merchandise and what have you. So it's a great opportunity for someone to give you more money. Simple as that.
Pretty much.
Which leads to our final tip here: brand awareness. So all in general, the marketing of how you're selling more merchandise.
Yeah, you want to make sure that everybody recognizes you and recognizes your brand. Put QR codes on as many things as you possibly can. If you're buying a tote bag that you're putting merchandise into that somebody's walking off with, a reusable one, that then they're taking that grocery store shopping. People are going to see that. They can scan it. They're going to go to the beach. They're going to travel. They're going to take this bag and they're going to go somewhere with it because they can reuse it. Reusable bags are huge these days. Everybody
Hmm.
does it. No need to argue about it.
Yep.
Just do it. We have a great deal of them, by the way. And then you're marketing to your customers, making sure that you're partnering now with the other departments in your team, such as your social media department or your in-game marketing department, making sure your online presence is there. Are things being posted to Facebook?
Hmm.
Are we posting them to Instagram? Are we putting players in the merchandise and doing something with them and having them be excited about it? Are we making sure that during the game, we've got several different slides or things that come up that say, shop online, scan this QR code? It's a great opportunity for you to be able to create a seat side delivery program. Somebody can just scan the code and you can have a special checkout
Hmm.
that's enabled during the games. And you can say seat, row, section, and everything's delivered during the third period. They can order from your store and never have to leave their seat. They don't have to stand in line. They don't have to check and worry about inventory. You're going to pull it, you're going to bring it to them, and you do it during the final period or quarter or whatever it is of the game that's going to make most sense for you and your team. And you're going to just increase things. It's going to be so much better. It's going to be great. If you've got boxes or special, VIP areas, put up a bunch of little signs and everything around there. Put them in the bathrooms, put them
Hmm.
on the walls, inundate everybody.
Yep. To let folks know to save time and buy online. A couple teams that I've worked with this year, they have smaller merchandise stores where fitting people inside is hard, or they're butt up against the concession. So if the concession line's long, it goes into the store. So they've been promoting the heck out of save time and buy online. So your know before your go emails include information about buying merchandise. You've got public address messages. Scan this QR code, buy merchandise, and we're going to deliver it to you in the fifth inning or the third period or whatever it is. And they've seen their numbers jump. And oftentimes, merchandise sales has a higher average order value, average order transaction value versus in store, because people don't want to wait in line, right? So if you can get, the more people you can send to your merchandise store online, the better chances. What do you say to teams when you look at their online merchandise store and it's just like a shirt that's laid out on like a table and they take a picture of it? It's like, you got to get someone to model it, right? It just sells better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to your visual merchandising and making sure that everything is standardized. You can have one shirt on a mannequin, then you can have another shirt on a person, or one shirt laying on a table. It looks chaotic.
Yep.
Just take a little bit of the time in the off season or on a weekend or something when you have that and just standardize that with something I really can't stress more than enough of. And it mannequins and busts really don't cost that much. And again, if there's a business or something going out around you, pick one up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're great again when you have that kind of NASCAR. I hate saying NASCAR concert style setup, but everybody knows what it
Mm-hmm.
means.
Yep.
But you've got those busts on wheels, and then it's a woman's and a men's and a kid's, and you can feature those things, and it's standing behind your staff. It gives more depth to your visual merchandising. It just makes it look. It elevates your presentation,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, and people like to see the form in the fit. You'll be able to see if it's a standard, more boxy size or if it's a slimmer size fit. Because another thing you'll notice, if they're laying a shirt down on a table, they're most likely not going into a lot of product detail in the
Mm-hmm.
description of that shirt on that website either. Um,
Yeah, there's a t-shirt website that I bought some t-shirts off of, and it had images of people. He's 5'10", 160. He's 6'2", 230. She's 5'2", 120. Like, it had all these images of the people wearing the shirt and the size, and I'm like, oh gosh, that's me. I see where that fits. All right, I'll buy it. And it made it easier for us. Now that's harder for teams to be able to do because they simply don't. They don't have the models and they can't do that. But at the very least, do the mannequin style or have someone on your staff model these men or women's or even kids, because it just helps you sell them significantly faster than if it was without. So
Oh, absolutely. And then, I mean, the one thing that a mannequin's never going to do is change its weight.
Yep, that's a good point.
You're going to know that a large fits this, and you can do the measurements of it,
Yep.
So, or the small fits that. Mannequins are great in that regard, as they're very standardized.
Yep, you are right about that. All right, let's recap our 10 tips. We've got some good ones here. So, number one, know your inventory. So, if you've got some items on the floor, just got to spot check and count some of that stuff because you might be selling out of some things without realizing it. That says, hey, this black shirt, short sleeve is selling better. We've sold out all of these versus these other ones. So, you got to spot check some things, right?
Yeah,
No,
and you can also pull a report when you're during the game. You can look at your sales report and standardize how many you bring to the floor. I have 5 largest brought to the floor every single time. Or when I'm replenishing my floor after a game, I make sure that there is 5 of every single size on the floor. So if I bring it up and I see that 5 large are sold in the black, I know that I need to bring down 7 most likely because
mhm.
there's somebody looking for it. And then I have 5 more for somebody else to sell. Anytime you go to the stock room to grab a size for somebody else, you are grabbing more to bring to the floor.
Yep. Number two, understand your retail space and how to best utilize it. So
Uh,
that's pretty simple. Like just understanding how you're laying it out, signage, and some of those things, right? Sorry to interrupt.
no, you're good. Yeah, just understand the space that you're working with. Talk and see if there's any other different areas that you could work with. If it's a super small area, are there 2 super small areas that you could maybe split these things into? Uh, and just make sure that your top drivers are present in all of those places. I have a lot of teams that they have their store up here, but they've got a kid zone. So then they have a kid table set up with kids merch.
Mm-hmm.
Down there and novelties and things right next to the kids zone. So target audience, target your fans, just sell, sell, sell.
Sell, sell, sell. All right, visual merchandising. So display your top stuff in the front. You've got some impulse buy stuff there, but try to make things a little bit easier for folks to buy things that are your top revenue drivers and try to create some sort of a story, I guess, when you go into the store.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just create a story. You don't want to have a bunch of women's stuff intermixed with a bunch of men's stuff and you got your random kid stuff. Definitely, obviously, try to set out your different sections. If you've got colors that work well together, you can create a color story in those things and separate that out. You can have face outs, you can have side hanging. Just create a visual environment that's enticing. I've worked with teams where they had shirts there for 3 years, and then I went in and I helped readjust some things around the store. And I kid you not, customers all night were like, "When did you guys get that shirt in?" And they were buying them. It was selling, but it was just because it had been side hung for so long and never faced out. People couldn't see what was on it.
Yep.
So you should be visually merchandising and changing up your store and its displays a minimum of, I mean, if you're open year long, once a quarter,
Mhm.
but especially after the holidays and the spring and all those different things, change stuff up to the season that is happening in the story that you're trying to get across.
Perfect. Next point number four, we're setting some prices. Let's do some research, right?
Yep. Just make sure you're constantly looking and seeing what other teams in your league are doing above, and then all the way up to the top.
Buying, we're going to do some research on items. So sure, I can get a nice jersey at $32, but is it great quality? So actually spending some time to see what other teams are buying, getting some quote, lots of different quotes, also seeing it in your hand, but going out and visiting people at trade shows. Those are some huge things to do, right?
Absolutely. And everybody, it's a small world, especially when it comes to sports. You and I know this. It's okay to call up one of your other teams in the league, be like, "Hey, I saw that you guys were giving away these youth jerseys the other night and the internet was going crazy over them. Who did you buy those from? Did you like it? Did anything go wrong?" Ask them about their buying experiences with who they're working with. And it's a great way. Maybe you're already working with that company and you didn't know. You'd only been buying promotional from them and you didn't know they also did retail or vice versa. So just making sure that you're talking. The AHL does a great job with having actual retail buyers meetings where all of those people get together and discuss what they have bought and the perks and the downsides of the companies and the things that they work with and the quality of the items. So it might even behoove you to league wise, just get your guys' buyers together and everybody just have a once a month little quick chat where they talk about the wins and opportunities that they had and how they can help each other. become, larger and grow. Because the more that each team grows in the league, the more the league itself grows, the more premier it comes. So,
Yep.
yes, you're out to bolster you and your team, but if you can help elevate your entire league, that's going to be fantastic for all parties involved.
No doubt about it. All right. Number six, back of the house. You got to keep things organized, spot check things, make sure you got stuff in the back organized where you can even make it easier for you. We talked about not leaving stuff in boxes. We talked about taking a look at Craigslist or even Facebook Marketplace to see if there's some things that people are selling that are going out of business. Just keep your eyes peeled for things like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just constantly look at stuff, even if you don't necessarily think that you need it now. Think, how could I use that in the future? Because if it's a spot on deal, snag it. And I'm sure there's some way that you can use it and actually make that a worthwhile investment in the moment in time, because you'll get something in there and be like, oh, I could do this with this and this with this. Again, a bookshelf and putting wheels on it. You'd be surprised.
Yep. Sales tracking's tip number 7. Keep things organized and understand you've got goals you want to hit. You're sitting down with your team before and you're talking through, hey, here's the item of the game. Here's the things that we're trying to do, just so that everyone's on the same page and everyone's kind of shooting at the same bucket here.
Yeah, you want to find the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not hitting your goals, why aren't you hitting your goals? Are your average transactions down? Are your UPTs down? Is your conversion down? Are you only converting 10% of the people that walk into your stadium? Why is it? Is it because your price point is too high? Is it because you don't have the sizes and inventory available for the customer to buy? Or is it design? They don't see anything that they like. So how can you find the money and drive those KPIs?
And then this moves to number 8, knowing driving KPIs. So having some add-ons, doing some team goals, competitions, those types of things, right?
Oh yeah, you can do bingo, you can do team competitions, you can do all sorts of fun stuff. But just really having your top sellers at your register, having helpful people on your sales floor, making sure people are being asked, are you finding everything okay? Again, it's going to save you time. In the long run, it's going to make you money, and your customers are going to be a lot happier.
Number 9, let's capture some customer information. You got to do it.
Yep. CIC. Anybody that's ever worked in retail, it's something that's constantly going to be hammered is CIC, get that customer information, because that's how you send out blasts about your holiday specials, about your spring specials, any sort of summer, Christmas in July, summer events, or anything that you're going to do that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're helping your ticketing staff as well, bolster and create their opportunities to get more, single game holders in, or they can send out packages about people, letting them know about the partial ticket packages. We saw that you came to 4 or 5 games last season. Did you know at 6 games you qualify for a partial ticket package? It just helps everybody in the long run.
Yep. Yeah. And then when you do this, just make sure the marketing team's actually sending out emails about merchandise, because oftentimes some teams forget to do that. So let's make sure you include that. And number 10, brand awareness. Let's promote all the merchandise and the cool stuff we've got.
Yeah. And just making sure that you're everywhere. You could be a hockey team, but make sure you've got beach towels, you've got beach bags and things, because guess what your hockey fans are doing? They're going to the beach majority of the time in the summertime if they're not sitting there watching your game. And why wouldn't you want to bring something of or have them bring something of yours to the beach and use it? Because one, it's super fun. I have been in beaches in Hilton Head, and I'll be wearing some of my, University of Tennessee stuff. And somebody would be like, oh, I went to University of Tennessee. I literally met somebody that lives up the street from me on a beach in Hilton Head because I was wearing my paraphernalia. I've done the same with Ice Bear stuff in us at the SeaTac airport in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
I ran into actually a player's parents that were coming down from Alaska and were at the airport and heading that direction. So it's great. It creates fun brand awareness and conversations. Your fans feel fun about it and happy about it. And then obviously you do too.
So there you go. 10 quick tips to improve your merchandise sales from Heather from Destroyer Promotional Products. If someone had questions and say, hey, you were talking about visual merchandising or driving KPIs, can someone reach out to you and kind of dive a little bit more in depth into some of these tips and tactics, or even just reach out to get some quotes on some things?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is a super short conversation when it comes to doing all these things. And it can be really difficult and confusing to understand. I'm there with people. Math is not my forte. I'll put it that way. Love me my Excel. I've got all sorts of tips and tricks to help somebody get that set up. We can help create a visual guide around your brand and what you want to run with for the upcoming season. If you've got promotional nights coming up and you want to do something for those specific nights, we can create retail drivers and promo drivers around that. So you just reach out to us and we're more than happy to help. It's easier for us to have a conversation with you one-on-one
Mm-hmm.
than just trying to do it via email, because just so much more organic questions that happen that way.
No doubt about it. What's the easiest way someone can get a hold of you?
They can reach out to us. Just visit us online at www.destroyer.rocks, and you can contact me, Carrie, or Jeff, and we can go ahead and we can start getting that conversation going. We have a great contact us now, a little button at the bottom, or you can click on our, what about us section, and you can get a hold of one of us individually. But absolutely, you just reach out to us anytime.
And you're here just to help teams sell more merchandise and give away better products for their promotional givers. Really just help elevate teams and make it so their fans are coming out, they're buying more tickets, buying more merchandise, and everyone's happy, right? That's what you're here for.
We literally want to rock your brand.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Love it.
We want to make sure that you are doing amazing. When you're doing amazing, we're doing amazing. Everybody is super excited and happy. And then Jeff would do a really weird Gene Simmons tongue thing that I'm not going to imitate.
Well, thank you for saving us for non the Jeff Gene Simmons thing, but appreciate you dropping so much knowledge. Strongly encourage teams to go back and re-listen to some of these specific tips. Maybe you want to dig in a little bit more and reach out to Heather and the team to be able to ask a little bit more about some of these tips. But just appreciate you coming on the podcast for the second time and sharing so much knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.